Manuel Velasquez, an artist from Mexico, created a beautiful hand-pulled print. It was produced using black ink against a red and orange background. It depicts a tree with a thick trunk at the bottom and a healthy batch of leaves on top. What makes this piece so fascinating is that the tree emerges not from the ground, but between two seats inside a rough-looking, humble boat. So I received an Artist Fellowship grant from the Lilly Foundation several years ago. Phil and I went to Mexico to interview a couple of contemporary artists. Manuel was a painter I spoke with through an interpreter. The artist told me about this piece. He said, "The tree is a symbol for hope. It is important that you carry hope with you no matter where you go and at all times." I fell in love with the image, and I've carried the visual with me, that tree in a boat, ever since I came across it through COVID, through hard times, through seminary, and ordination challenges, and protests for marriage equality. This symbol is a part of my toolbox, my mental toolbox, that keeps me in a state of healthy mental perspective, for keeping hope alive when I don't feel hopeful. Hope is the belief that a positive outcome is possible, even when there is some evidence to the contrary. Hope can be passive in the sense of a wish or a prayer, or it can become faith in action. Without hope, there is no action. There is no move toward betterment and equity. Despair is the absence of hope. It is a rudderless ride to nowhere with nothing to catch the breeze in order to move the vessel forward. An interesting thing to note here is I had a conversation with a young Unitarian Universalist many years ago, and he pointed out, hey, despair is not rudderless. It's useful. It prompts someone to act, to do something, which, if they do something, then they're hopeful. It's an expression of hope. That young person, who is a college professor today, was and is very wise. When combined with persistence and human intention, hope can alter the destructive forces that keep the proverbial waters churning and inhibits the creation of a more benevolent world. With hope, impenetrable walls that have kept loved ones apart for years crumble to the ground. With hope, the immense giant is felled with a single stone. With hope, the sea parts and the people find their way to safety. With hope, the puddle of oil in the lamp burns not for 1 day, but for 8 days. At age 10, Eva Moses Kor and her sister Miriam were among the 3,000 twins subjected to terrible experiments at Auschwitz during World War II. Before the war, the sisters had been raised in a close-knit Jewish family in Transylvania. For 10 months in the camp, the girls endured painful, life-threatening genetic testing experiences. How did she and her sister survive until they were released on January 28, 1945? Without reservation, Eva declared that her resolve to survive was her ability to visualize one day leaving that horrid place. So before I go any further, I have to warn you what I am about to say is a true account, and it may be difficult to hear, but for all of you who know history, the reality, the facts of history, you'll know this is another sad story with a better ending. Eva stated that shortly upon arrival at the camp, she saw 3 children dead on the latrine floor and vowed to do everything in her power to make sure that she and Miriam, quote, would not end up on that filthy floor. Years later, people asked her if she was ever scared and thought she might die. She responded by saying, absolutely not, because to be scared is to visualize that I would die or my sister. I always saw myself alive and someday walking out of that camp. In 1984, Eva Kor founded the Candles, Children of Auschwitz Nazi Deadly Lab Experiment Survivors, a Holocaust museum in Terre Haute, Indiana. Eva died in 2019, but her voice was heard nationally. Although an unpopular idea among most of the other twins who survived, Eva wanted to create a peace garden at the center. She said, quote, I hope to help people who want to learn to forgive. What an amazing individual she was. To maintain hope that a better life is near is to engage the imagination and to prompt the mind and the heart to persevere. Although the Nazi tragedies occur no more, we continue to dwell in a world that hungers for more love, more understanding, more compassion, more kindness. We know, too, that there continues to exist countless ways people continue to be cruel in subtle and not so subtle ways. Such as the young man who was a junior at a local high school who said he wanted to publish an essay in a book by other high school students because he wanted people to know him for who he is. He explained that it is really frustrating, quote, when people move away from me on the sidewalk, when they see only my blackness. May this be the year when difference is no longer a barrier to a fulfilling life, to loving relationships, to respect for the dignity and worth of every individual. Too many people, like the young man on the sidewalk and non-binary individuals, are troubled by actions directly related to the preconceived notions of others. Trans individuals are continuing to be targeted. I wonder, when will the societal impetus for othering people subside? It is a rare occasion for me to calmly read the newspaper or surf social media. Far too often, I feel seasick. Either my heart flutters with excitement when my eyes encounter hopeful news that maybe fairness will prevail in the world, or more often than not, my stomach twists when I read that my own neighbors, Floridians, continue to promote transphobia and misinformation about all of us in the LGBTQAI plus community, the queer community. I get comfortable and I think somewhere in a public setting, a stranger says something so outrageous, I'm thrown off base again. Riding waves of optimism and then despair is nauseating. I get it. However, no matter how rough the ride becomes, and regardless of how unpopular our beliefs, if we are called to remain faithful Unitarian Universalists, we have to hold on to hope like barnacles on the underside of a boat. As the year continues to unfold and post-election winds whip up a storm, unpopular as our beliefs are, we hold steady We continue to support, even in the face of friends who might disagree with us, we support the lives of strangers, family members, and friends who need to know that they matter. When hearing of challenge and in the midst of our own confusion about things such as pronouns and gender identity, we must regard our personal feelings of personal discomfort as a call to action, and at the very least to become informed. Why would I honor this person who says their pronoun is they? Because I honor the dignity of that individual. It should provoke all of us to claim our place next to our ancestors in faith who made commitment to change the course of history. We are called relentlessly, this is our faith calling, to envision a hopeful, inclusive future. May this be the year when difference is no longer a barrier to an enlightened future of more diversity. When I say ancestors, do you know who I'm talking about? In 1790, Universalist Judith Sargent Murray wrote an essay titled On Equality of the Sexes. In 1848, Unitarian Elizabeth Cady Stanton brought a document to a 2-day conference that launched the women's rights movement. There were 68 women and 32 men who signed a declaration of sentiments that included the following paragraph. In entering upon the great work before us, we anticipate no small amount of misconception, misrepresentation, and ridicule. But we shall use every instrumentality within our power to effect our object. We shall employ agents, circulate tracts, petition the state and national legislatures, and endeavor to enlist the pulpit and the press in our behalf. Could those very words be used today? This is why so many of us are involved in social justice. It's part of our ancestral DNA. 72 long years after the first women's rights convention, when it was messy and women such as Unitarian journalist and speaker Ida B. Wells suffered and yet advocated for women's right, the right to vote was achieved. Did you hear what I said? How many years? 72 long years. Hope was a vision shared by individuals who were called by our Unitarian Universalist faith to take action. The women who fought pictured themselves voting. They imagined themselves reaching the goal. Did all of them? No. But they kept that in their mind in order to keep going. Even successful athletes, runners will attest to one strategy for winning, and that is to picture one's feet crossing the finish line. Again, I'm going to be careful here because it is not always by the grace of God that people survive or win. That's not what it's about. What I'm telling you today is whatever happens, for you to keep going is to keep an image in your mind that helps you to continue to breathe and not allow despair to bring you down. And yet, regarding women's rights, all these years later, 72 years to get the vote, can you believe that most of us are still fighting against the patriarchal hand that wants to keep the door to access for women's health care closed? I can't believe it. In my lifetime, I had access to health care, and the door is slammed shut again. Frankly, I don't have to envision hope because I experienced the freedom of having agency over my own body. And then I've watched that door slam shut on younger women. Out of anger, not despair here, I knock on doors asking people to step aside and let women have agency. Again, shame on our Florida government for using my tax dollars to put forth misinformation regarding Amendment 4. I needed to take a breath. All of you seated before me and on Zoom this morning can feel the weight of our present circumstances. This boat we ride also rocks from the weariness of war in the Middle East. The impending post-election concerns here in North America, recovery from storms that will have a lasting effect here locally on the homeless, and a crisis for affordable housing that was already a crisis before the hurricanes hit. Our hearts continue to ache for all who suffer. Look to your own duty. Do not tremble before it, said Lord Krishna to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. That essential text in Hinduism, the Hindu tradition. Don't tremble before what you know you have to do. Don't give up hope. Hang on to it and paddle like mad to make a positive difference when you can, where you can. Right now, breathe the breath of your ancestors. Imagine your part in a pivotal year in history. Perhaps this is the year you write the letter to Congress or City Council. Maybe this is the year you speak up when a joke, you know, the one that promotes prejudice or homophobia, is told. Maybe this is the year you say, I love you, dear friend, but what you just said is hurtful. Please stop. Finally, the only way to maintain any sense of hope is to take care of yourself. Avoid running on empty. We all do it. I see it all the time. That is, don't forget the power of taking a nap, of rest, of laughter. Call somebody up and say, help me. I need a good joke. Give them 5 minutes to go find one. Now, as much as I love Wendell Berry's poem that begins like this, when despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives might be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in the beauty on the water and the great heron feeds. Okay, really, I can't imagine or keep that vision with me because, frankly, it's damp where the heron feeds and the wood drake rests. And there are mosquitoes, so I'm not going there. Can't imagine that. It's really hard to picture myself like that. I did, however, come across some imagery that I wanted to share with you other than this one. Roger Robinson wrote a poem. He's originally from Trinidad. He wrote a poem about a portable paradise. May you remember this poem all week and the weeks ahead. No matter what happens, you are going to be okay if your paradise is portable. Here is Roger Robinson as he reads his poem. There's a little bit of animation.
Hi, my name is Roger Robinson, and this poem is called A Portable Paradise, a titled poem from the book A Portable Paradise. And if I speak of paradise, then I'm speaking of my grandmother, who told me to carry it always on my person, concealed, so no one else would know but me. That way they can't steal it, she'd say. And if life puts you under pressure, trace its ridges in your pocket, smell its piney scent on your handkerchief, hum its anthem under your breath. And if your stresses are sustained and daily, get yourself to an empty room, be it hotel, hostel, or hovel. Find a lamp and empty your paradise onto a desk. Your white sands, green hills, and fresh fish. Shine the lamp on it like the fresh hope of morning, and keep staring at it till you sleep.
What does your fresh hope of morning look like? I hope you'll remember that. What does my fresh hope of morning look like? Rest well when you can. And then, my beloved, spend no time on complaint or complacency. Our faith, though a minority, has rarely been quiet and demure. Unitarian Universalism hope happens here. Blessed be these words. Thank you for listening.